Hey, my name is Holly Garnto, and I'm going to be discussing how important food nutrition is in schools. Okay, one of the issues in my school is the amount of children who often come to school hungry due to living in poverty. I also teach in a Title I school, which means that the majority of my students come from low income families. I did some research on the issue and I found a couple facts. Um, Over 13 million children from low income families go to school hungry. Research by Seton reports that 22 million students across the country rely on reduced price or free school lunches through the National School Lunch Program, funded by the USDA. The USDA stands for the United States Department of Agriculture, and this is an agency that implements policies relating to farming, food quality, and nutrition. According to No Kid Hungry, a quarter of all low-income parents worry their kids don't have enough to eat between school lunch and breakfast the next day, and 3 out of 4 public school teachers say students regularly come to school hungry. Okay, you might ask, why are hungry students a concern? The bigger question would be, why are hungry students not more of a concern? The issue is a major concern and it negatively impacts students' classroom performance. Based on research from Seton, I found 3 key points that were brought up in the research. Kids who go to school hungry may suffer an inability to concentrate and often fall behind academically. Hungry kids are more likely to miss school because of an illness and more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety and develop behavioral problems as teenagers. They are more liable to drop out before graduation, which leads to lower paying jobs and a greater probability of being food insecure adults. I've also noticed in my classroom that when kids come to school hungry, they are often more irritable than kids who are not hungry. They often have headaches, complain of their stomach hurting. So in my at my school, this is a major concern. Being hungry has an enormous impact on a student's ability to learn, so much that Seton characterizes food as a basic school supply and is just as important as textbooks and pencils. I found 2 legal cases that relates to my issue. The first case is Marquez versus Hardin and Shaw versus Modesto School Board. So in Marquez versus Hardin in 1969, according to the Economic Opportunity Act, this case was a class action for relief against the Secretary of the United States Department of Agriculture that asked them if they would fully enforce their duty to provide all needy children in every school district of California to participate in the National School Lunch Program and be provided with a free or reduced price lunch. Federal and state defendants agreed to issue new regulations requiring that all students with welfare or equivalent parental income status receive a free or reduced price lunch. Okay, in Shaw versus Modesto School Board, according to Nutrition and Human Needs, this case stated that fewer than 1 out of 9 children in the district of Modesto, California, were actually receiving the lunches they were entitled to according to the National School Lunch Program. The judge ruled that under the National School Lunch Act, every needy child has a right to a free lunch or a lunch at a price that students can afford. As a result of the ruling in 1970, the Modesto School District went from feeding 189 students in 1968 to 400 students in 1969 and 1,897 students the school year after the ruling in Shaw versus Modesto. And there are my references. I'm so glad that cases like these were brought to light and were ruled that kids actually come from impoverished families and need free or reduced lunches, because the majority of my students at my school, even though they get the free lunches and breakfast, they go home and that's the only meals that they have each day. So I'm very grateful for these court cases and the changes that are brought about through this issue, and that schools were noticing how important food nutrition is in schools. That way no kid can be hungry.